We have a development in the Stop Killing Games department, which recently, I believe, hit 1.2 million signatures when we only needed a million, but 1.2 to cover all of the fraudulent signatures. But right here, an industry that's lobbying against Stop Killing Games. And this industry is the same group, a trade association, to lobby against loot boxes being classified as gambling, which everybody knows they actively are. Just like everybody knows that gacha games are gambling for children. We all fucking know that shit. Apparently we got some bad guys angry, but the good news is this means that the movement of Stop Killing Games is working, because if it wasn't, they wouldn't give a fuck. Now they know they're forced to care.
Hello, I have a development on the Stop Killing Games campaign. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it's recently crossed the 1 million signature mark.
Yep,
though
1.2.
I'm assuming nothing. In fact, I've been given stats that there was a previous initiative that had 250,000 of its signatures invalidated.
Jesus.
And I could see us setting a new record there. So keep signing. That's the first thing.
Absolutely.
Second, for anyone who doubts how...
Yeah, I actually think we'll probably need around 1.4. Because with how viral this went, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people like faked their signatures from a different country or used some type of VPN to get around whatever security pre-measures they already had. So definitely, and there'll be a link in the description, sign this petition if you're an EU, and let's help games stop being killed.
How powerful this initiative can be? We now have a lobbying group issuing a statement about us. Do you think if we had no chance of changing things, we would have lobbyists coming out against us? Well, a big one is Video Games Europe.
Uh-oh!
Best I can tell, this is essentially the voice of the industry. So of course they're going to be against any proposal we make, because they're ideologically opposed to us being able to retain our games.
Yeah, you want to know why? Because they want to kill games, that way they can sell us the same games over again. They want to continue recycling the same games, killing them and remaking the same thing, because nobody fucking innovates anymore. There's like maybe 1 or 2 actually good new games a year. It's a fucking wasteland of shit.
I really can't emphasize that enough. Even if every developer in the world was for our proposal, the industry would still be against it. Because it's not developers who make most of the big decisions. It's shareholders and companies worth billions.
Absolutely.
So with that in mind, let's go.
It honestly becomes sickening. And I'm going to pull up a great Grok quote. When you kind of realize how video games and movies are being made in big 2025. Because it's not like people who have passion making video games enjoying movies/cinema, which you can also put games in this, because it's almost impossible once you know. Once I know what at Grok, and this is an AI Grok bot on Twitter. Once you know about the persuasive ideological biases, propaganda, and subversive tropes in Hollywood, like anti-white stereotypes, forced diversity, or historical revisionism, it shatters the immersion. Many spot these in classics too, from trans undertones in old comedies to World War II narratives, ruins the magic for some. Absolutely. Once you realize these are just a bunch of out-of-touch corporate billionaires just trying to be as progressive and as woke as possible in order to look good on a PR-wise, rather than making a good fucking game, things just, you just become disenchanted with the entire field. And it's felt with games like Dragon Age Origin and that other game with the ugly lesbian as the spaceship pilot. It's a shame.
Go through this statement quick by our opposition here. We appreciate...
That's why AAA games are dead, and that's why the majority of good games that have come out are made by indie developers.
the passion of our...
And case in point, let's just talk about Claire Obscure, Expedition 33. What was that? 39 devs and a dog? And they make that shit? What are we doing here, guys?
community. However, the decision to discontinue online services is multifaceted, never taken lightly, and must be
Dragon
an
Age
option for
Veilguard, not Origin,
companies
sorry,
when the
misspoke.
online experience is no longer commercially
Yeah, sorry. Dragon Age Origin was amazing. I meant Veilguard, sorry. I get the titles confused. My bad.
viable. Well, I have great news for you, Video Games Europe. We are in no way seeking to impede your right to discontinue online services. We are saying you can shut down your games whenever you want. But you have to do that responsibly.
Yep.
In a way that doesn't take back rights you already sold to customers.
Yep.
Yeah, some people forget that companies have to sell you some rights to begin with to even play the games. We understand that it can be disappointing for players, but when it does happen, the industry ensures that players are given fair notice of the prospective changes in compliance with local consumer protection law.
Yeah, one of the biggest fucking slaps in the face was, oh god, Tribe 9. Or as people like to call it, Tribe 90K, because that's all the fucking money it made. Or Tribe 9 players, because that's all the people who they had left after 3 weeks of launch. Launching a game, a gacha game, meant to make millions of dollars in any predatory way they possibly fucking can. It's a very slippery slope, guys, but they are quite fun. Shutting down after 3 months? That's psychotic. A game that you can invest unlimited amounts of currency into, shutting down after 3 months. Like, they announced the end of service after 3 months, and the game's totality would have been around 8. What the fuck is that? That should not even be legal, bro.
Okay, well, first off, I'm not a lawyer, but this guy at WBS Legal is, and he thinks Ubisoft probably broke the law when it shut down the crew, giving players only 3 months' notice, when they should have given more like 2 years. Yeah, you know, Ubisoft, one of your members. So this is probably a false statement out the gate. But you know what? That's not even our issue. So I don't even care how much notice you're giving to players.
Yep.
What I care about is that you're not depriving them of their purchase. Private servers are not always a viable alternative option for players, as the protections we put in place to secure players' data, remove illegal content, and combat unsafe community content would not exist and would leave rights holders liable. Okay, several things here. We have to break it down. Private servers are not always a viable alternative option. So they're saying for a new game concept, which hasn't even been made yet, sometimes there is no way they can add an end-of-life plan to the design? Their programmers' fingers simply can't type that? I would love to see them say this to a room full of developers. I think the industry would be surprised how viable it was if the law said you can't take back the limited license rights you already sold to the customer. And this next part. Yes, this part is true. Players will absolutely be getting a rougher and more wild experience playing an unsupported game. I happen to know a thing or two about that. So yes, that's the nature of anything unsupported. That's not a good excuse to destroy what people paid for.
Yep.
It just means they're on their own. But then they say this part. It would leave rights holders liable. Okay, I am not a lawyer.
There's no way that the developers can be sued for a bad experience someone had on a private server. There's no way that's real.
But my first impression is this strikes me as very not true. The way I read this, they're saying they are incapable of writing an end-user license agreement that absolves them of all liability on shutdown. Like planning for end of life, apparently it's just not possible.
Nah, it's cap.
So me, as a layman, I'm wondering what's the problem with adding a line like this to the EULA? Once our company ends support, we are not responsible for any and all issues that arise from users continuing to operate the game in a discontinued and unsupported state, and absolve ourselves from any and all liability pertaining to its continued use.
Yep.
There's probably a better way to say that, but you get the idea. They seem to be saying a line like that is just impossible to write. See, I'm puzzled by this because as a consumer, I've seen all kinds of things have support.
Yeah, there's just no way
but I
they
still
can't
get
do
to
that. There's
keep
no way.
them? I'm just
No, they're
on my
bullshitting
own.
100%.
That's a very common thing. I think we need a lawyer to weigh in on this.
Legal mindset.
So if we take them at
Get
their
on it.
word, it sounds like they're concerned about protecting customers. Okay, but their solution is customers must have their purchase taken away from them forever. We have to destroy our customers' games to protect them from themselves. I normally don't like to use this phrase because it's thrown around too much, but this is beyond nanny state. This is more like Terminator state. Take a game like Star Siege Tribes. For all purposes, that's a game intended to run online with other people, or over a network at the very least. It was discontinued in 2004, but you can still run it today, online. This lobbying group seems to be saying that's a liability. No one should have been permitted to run this game after 2004, and it's a mistake that this game is still allowed to exist because of the risk to consumers.
Nah, bullshit.
We would have destroyed every last copy of it back in 2004 if we could have. We couldn't then, but we can now. So that's our business model with new games. See, I take that as extremely hostile to both customers and preservation.
Makes no sense.
So my question is, why can't we allow customers to continue playing the game, but adding a splash screen saying something like, warning, this game is no longer supported. Running it could represent a risk to your security. We assume no liability for what may happen as a result.
Absolutely.
That strikes me as a reasonable compromise. In addition, Many titles
Because they're not looking to compromise. They're looking to shut down these older games. That way they can sell you the shittier remake of the same games. Yeah, no, it's just scummy. They're just fucking with us because they think that they can. And I think the Stop Killing Games movement will actually put a stop to that, I think.
are designed from the ground up to be
If anybody can stop them, it's EU consumer rights. Because, my God, they've made so many good changes in the past, like, 10 years.
online only. In effect,
It's so cringe people defend corporations. I know, they're usually, majorly, guys, this should be real. Corporations are made to make money, right? They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about Pride Month. They don't give a fuck about gay people. They don't care about, Black Lives Matter. They don't give a fuck about that. The only thing they care is getting you to think that they care. That way they can make more money. And guys, that's even the same for even my favorite developers. Listen, I love Wuthering Waves. I think the devs that I've talked to are cool, but at the end of the day, they're a corporation, guys, right? It's just another flavor of the same greedy shit we've always fucking seen. They're still a gotcha company at the end of the fucking day, right? If they were so good, the game would be free, right? The game would be free. A game wouldn't cost, or a character wouldn't cost $300. It is what it is, right? All companies are the same.
these proposals would curtail developer choice
Some are better than other, but all of them are bad.
by making these video games prohibitively expensive to create. Okay, this part is a little more complicated because every game is different. But when I see this, I'm thinking of auto manufacturers saying how they can't afford to make cars if they're required to include seatbelts in them. Because no one ever made that argument back in the 60s. However, I think there is a big piece being left out of the discussion here. A whole lot of the complexity and cost of making an online game comes from all the microservices involved. And guess what? We don't need the vast majority of them for an end-of-life build. I talked to a developer and he gave me a big list of examples we don't need. Payment processing, anti-cheat, analytics, voice chat. There's so much here that's not necessary to just run the damn game.
Yep.
In fact, I have a quote from him. We are not asking for 98% of the game. We're asking for the 2% of game logic from main gameplay functionality. Except even that's not true. We're not asking for that directly. We're asking for the same rights we already bought for the game, which they can probably fulfill by providing that 2%, as he puts it.
Yep.
So let's cut out all this extra crap before we start talking about how cost prohibitive an end-of-life build is. Now, that does mean designing games so it's easier to turn off all these microservices is a very good idea.
Absolutely.
And that also means it may not be practical for some existing games. Good thing for the industry, the initiative is not retroactive. And most publishers
just for
already
future.
have a local test environment for a game.
And I think that's
which
fair.
I'm told is bad practice not to. That's half the battle right
Because
there.
it's like when they changed the Lightning charger to the USB-C charger. Like, there's no way that Apple would be told, and everybody who bought a Lightning charger, you need to replace with a USB-C. Right? That it would be impossible to say, go back in time and fix every single video game to be run in a playable state after you've already ended of service, right? It's just, okay, you guys have fucked us enough. From here on out, no more fucking us.
So this statement?
You can't retroactively
no,
fix
one
this.
is
You just
meme
can't.
level. I do not believe the industry when they say this is so expensive, it's not possible. Especially when it's been done many times before.
Well, if anybody said that, it's probably the Borderlands 4 devs, because I don't know how the fuck that game costs 3 times more than Borderlands 3, and it looks the fucking same. What are they doing?
This is seatbelts all over again. And how about getting input from big European developers not on this list, like CD Projekt or Larian? We welcome the opportunity to discuss our
Projekt? I thought
position
it was
with
called CD Projekt
policymakers.
Red.
Yeah, I bet you do. And those who have led the European Citizens Initiative in the coming months. Well, they'll probably be glad to know that's actually not me. I am not the official spokesperson for the initiative.
By the way, them saying that it was too expensive means it's a number higher than 0, and they don't want to waste money on something that's not going to get them more money. Which, are we really surprised they said that, guys?
I'm ineligible. I'm more of a super promoter. The reason I'm making this video is I want to inoculate people against these bad faith arguments. Remember, everything they're saying here is their excuse for taking away your purchase with no time frame given and destroying it forever. Is this a good enough excuse for you? It isn't for me, especially when they're lying. I think that's worth taking into consideration.
Yep.
And on that note, they also released a longer statement. But do I really need to go over this?
The really dangerous things about these organizations putting out statements like this is that we as a we as a people have been conditioned to take all of these things at face value and not do any research into what they're saying because of how it's formatted and the way it's presented, right? But if you break down a lot of these things that these corporations say, and once you realize that there is, I mean, this is still their opinion. This is still what they're saying, right? A lot of companies, a lot of corporations, they just lie to your ass. They do. It's like the same thing with Genshin Impact devs. Like, we heard what you've been saying, and we fixed the game according to what you guys want. And then it's like, they added 3 extra chickens to the daily check-in. It's like, brother, I don't know who you're listening to, but it wasn't any of us. Ain't nobody asked for that shit.
Yes. Why providing continued support do not work for all games? Oh, we're back to the classics. Okay, so they don't even understand what we're asking for. You know what? I'm going to let them figure it out. I played that song enough already.
Yep.
If I have to explain that a 500th time, I want it to at least be to someone who's not being paid to undermine us.
Absolutely.
Now, they're going to be lobbying politicians with this, I'm assuming, but we can try and do our part too. If you're super motivated on this and are part of the EU, you can contact a member of European Parliament and tell them about the initiative. I've been told you should target ones in the Internal Market and Consumer Protection Committee. There's a link in the description below.
I love
Just
that.
pick one for your country, and I'm just relaying this next part. I have no idea myself, but I've been told you should maybe avoid PFE and ESN, as they're not known for doing things, is how it was explained to me. And the last bit of advice is a lot of email to them gets buried.
Jesus.
So if you want
We
something
don't
that stands
do
out,
things
this
here,
title was
guys.
suggested to me. 1 million plus
What a
on European
shot.
Citizens Initiative. Stop destroying video games. Help us protect gamers' consumer rights. And that's all I have on Video Games Europe lobbying against us.
Great
For
fucking
now,
video, man. I really, really, really like this guy. I can't believe I haven't subscribed already. Yo, boys, go give this video a like. Use the link down below to sign. And then if you can contact any of your local representatives of your EU country, that would help a lot. Because all we want is to just not be treated like shit. And I really don't think that's that big of a deal to ask.